Let's talk about it seriously. A lot of people, they don't like international war and things like that. A lot of people, they don't like the petrodollar. They don't like imperialism. They don't like big bank bailouts. But I believe, for the most part, not completely, but for the most part, these are the evil things that these evil people do that does have a positive effect for a lot of people in this country. That is, when the U.S. military is setting up military bases in foreign countries and pointing guns at people and saying, use the U.S. dollar or else, it creates demand for our currency, and then we don't have to do as much work. And if the petrodollar collapses, then we're going to have to go back to chopping wood and raising chickens on our own and actually producing things in our country, something most Americans aren't prepared for and don't want to do.
Most Americans that are young now, they're just demanding free.
That's why
demanding free stuff.
Look, Ken Klippenstein
today was tweeting about forgiving student loans. Like today, because they're talking about bailing out banks. The banks that, if you bail out a bank, you're bailing out a bank because people had money that they put into the bank. So that's completely and totally isolated from like the situation with student loans where people didn't have money, they borrowed money, they got an education ostensibly, and then they're asking to be forgiven for that borrowing money. Well, you're the one, you're getting the forgiveness for the education or for the borrowing money, and you get to walk away with the education. You're getting free shit.
It's the interest. It's the excessive compounding interest that is the problem. They used to call it usury.
That's fine, but that's not the same thing as forgiving the loan in totality.
Correct.
That's different.
Yeah. I'll hardly ever advocate for just deleting people's loans. I think that's kind of dumb. But like the idea, the profiting mechanism of loaning money, I get it. It was a risk. If I loan you $100, there's a risk you'll never show up again. So I've got to at least like give me 110 back. That way, if I loan out 10 times and one of those guys walks away, at least I made my money back. But it's excessive. Compounding interest, debt upon debt is like, it's almost incalculable by the common American mind.
It is. The issue here is how our whole economy is one big Ponzi scheme from the get-go that is unsustainable. And going back to 2008, we can clearly see there's holes in the system. They put a Band-Aid over those holes, but the water is spraying through. The ship is sinking. And now we're seeing... It's like that cartoon where the holes are popping up in the hole and the cartoon character is putting his fingers and then his toes in his eye or whatever. You're not going to stop it. But here's what I want to say. Bailouts, okay. If you want to sit in your lounge chair and watch sports and order nachos and drink beer and not have to worry about anything, you want the bailouts. You want it all. If you are an entitled Gen Z or Gen Zer or millennial who wants to go to college for gender studies, you want the bailouts. And this is why you are seeing the default liberal and leftist be like, we need to make sure we take care of this. Because then they prop up the system that allows them to do nothing. I kind of think we need to go back to a little bit of hard work. I'm not saying everybody should go work on ranches where they tend to chickens and goats and stuff like that, but maybe just a little bit. Because right now we got a bunch of, like that viral video of the Gen Zer being like, why do I have to work to live?
That is burned into my brain. And
make them work. Just let the banks fail. Then they can go be like, I'm hungry. Be like, well, start picking food yourself. Grow your own food and chickens or whatever.
Biden says that none of these losses will be borne by the taxpayer from this bailout. He tweeted that 7 hours ago for the record. He said we'll pay for it from the fees the banks pay into the deposit insurance fund.